Been reminiscing about the good old NXT black and gold days. The more I look back in retrospective to that version of NXT, the more I think about Dusty Rhodes, and the less I give credit to Triple H, to the progression of the company of that time period that badly needed fresh new stars and main eventers and a new crop of talent. And if you really think about that period of time from 2012 to 2015, that was the period where Dusty was grooming together the next crop of main eventers, the next crop of what we see today on our TV screen. Really responsible for creating what we see in Bayley, Sami Zayn, Sasha Banks, now Mercedes Moné, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns being the main one. And looking back at Black and Gold, Dusty Rhodes was the originator. Wasn't Triple H. Did Triple H take NXT to newer heights? Sure. But he did not lay down the foundation. We gotta give credit to where credit is due. Dusty is responsible for the women's evolution. Had Dusty not groomed stars like Paige, Emma, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Charlotte, Becky Lynch, the women's revolution at that time would have never materialized had it not been for Dusty's influence. Dusty inject a lot of life and character on those early days of NXT because it was heavenly character infested, gimmick infested, a lot of strong characters. Of course, Dusty being a strong character himself, he knew what it took to stand out. He knew what it took to cut an engaging, relatable, heartfelt, down-to-earth promo that everybody can get in their feelings, right? When they're listening to, they're watching. You know, Dusty Rhodes was a type of performer that made you believe and made you feel when it came to that Hard Times promo that he cut on Ric Flair. And he allowed that talent, that crop of talent to flourish, to focus more on promos, focus more on connecting with the audience. And looking back, you know, you definitely saw crumbs of Dusty's work. You saw glimpses of Dusty in a Seth Rollins, in a Roman Reigns, in a Becky Lynch, a Seth, not Seth, I already said Seth Rollins. But yeah, Becky Lynch, Bayley, Sasha, Charlotte, Paige, Emma, Big E at the time, even Bo Dallas. Bo Dallas was doing his best work in NXT, arguably Sami Zayn included. Sami Zayn was the biggest underdog. As an underdog, he flourished so well in NXT, it worked. He had that babyface underdog magic down to a T. And anything that was happening on the main roster did not compare to what was going down in NXT Black and Gold. A lot of people want to give Triple H his flowers, his credit, and say Triple H is responsible for what we see today on the main roster. His influence plays a huge part in the progression of the company. I would argue and say Dusty Rhodes played a bigger part in that progression. He played a huger role in creating the women's revolution. Triple H only capitalized off of Dusty's work, off of Dusty's projects. Dusty was even doing work in FCW. He was grooming talent way back then in FCW, the FCW days, pre-NXT. And I can guarantee you that a lot of today's wrestlers are heavily influenced by Dusty, more than they are Triple H. because Triple H was mainly responsible for the takeovers, which felt very special. You know, him and William Regal, they worked together to recruit other talent, different talent from the indies all around the world, you know? And the main focus was wrestling ability, you know, 5-star matches, you know, putting on the best match possible. And that's good. But in between, we got to get something better. We got to get something that can get us engaged in the match, something that can make us tune in to want to watch these different performers every, I guess it was like every Wednesday, right? Every week of NXT leading up to that big match. We need the story, we need the drama, we need the conflict, we need all the meat and potatoes, right? Getting just the 5-star match and no story, no substance, it's a waste of time. Because essentially that's what AEW is. It's all wrestling, no substance. Whole bunch of hardcore madness, but barely any storytelling, barely any psychology, barely any development in character. But Dusty understood that whole principle. He understood that aspect of the business so well, which is why NXT Black and Gold thrived the way it did in those elementary years. And I'll give Triple H credit for taking it off, for making it more than what it was. But Triple H is not responsible for the overall success of what NXT became. And Shawn Michaels, he's taken a little bit of what Dusty did and he's molding it into his own vision, which is why I like Shawn Michaels better as a booker, because he's taken a whole different approach from Triple H. I don't want Triple H to be down in NXT messing with anything Shawn Michaels got going on. And I have a feeling it's happening right now. I have a feeling Triple H is somewhat squandering the talent down there, especially some of the females. You know, and you can see a difference in how HBK books and how Papa H, they like to call him, Paul Levesque, how he books. You know, there's a contrast in how they both book and how they both, you know, put these shows together. But I felt that Dusty was very integral in women's wrestling, you know, popping off the way it did and creating that next crop of main event stars that we see today. And it's funny, the guys that Triple H co-signed, the guys that Triple H more so believed in his version of NXT Black and Gold, where are they now? Some of them are released. Some of them are in the mid card or in catering. Maybe one or two happen to be in the main event scene, but they're not. They're no Cody Rhodes. They're no Roman Reigns, right? A lot of the guys that Triple H was really rocking with, that he was gearing up behind, building them up as main event stars, as monster baby faces, monster heels. Where are they now? I'm just asking a question because it's like people want to kiss Triple H's ass, pretending like it's all him. He's the savior of professional wrestling. You know, he's responsible for the elevation of professional wrestling, tag team wrestling, women's wrestling. Now we see different main event stars flourishing. That's not all him. A lot of that comes down to Dusty Rhodes' influence, his foundation. But Triple H's guys, they're not in the main event like that. Originally, his original main event guys in NXT, they're not on the main roster. They're not killing it. They're just not. I'm just telling it like it is. So I had to reminisce a little bit back on that version of NXT and really think about how the landscape was from those years. And I came to the conclusion that Dusty played a bigger part, was more intricate in the progression of wrestling as a whole in the WWE more than Triple H. Better booker, had a better vision for talent than Triple H did.